Yep.
Pretty good size woman now, looks like a baby.
Okay. I'd like to call this hearing of the Port Authority of Stafford County to order. The sole purpose of this hearing is to consider the plan for future development, construction, improvement, and utilization of the Port Authority of Stafford County. It's been published 3 times in the St. John News, and the public given opportunity to register written opposition to it. And I guess I could ask the record reflect that there was no public comment received in writing in opposition or in support. The statute, according to our attorney giving guidance on the hearing, the statute gives minimum guidance on how the hearing on the plan for development needs to be conducted. If nobody from the public is in attendance, I would request that the Port Authority adopt the plan. Our minutes should reflect who made and seconded the motion to adopt the plan in the final vote. Maybe since we do have members of the public in attendance, the thing to do would be to give a review of what the plan is and why we're considering adopting it, and ask if there's anybody that has comment that they would like to register. So I guess a little bit of context, the Port Authority Board has been established. We have gone through the initial pieces of, establishing a board of directors, establishing bylaws and such. But this is specifically saying, well, what do we plan to do with our Port Authority structure? And it articulates that we're planning to, establish with it, its purpose is to promote and stimulate business development. That our way of doing that here is to establish a rail transload facility. I don't know how much you want me to kind of like read through the plan, but the point is that if we kind of create a place, our hope is a place that businesses can locate that has the facilities for rail to be able to efficiently transport product both in and out, that it kind of creates an environment where business may choose to locate, choose to invest, can be successful. Without that structure, that wouldn't happen. So the port has purchase options on 2 pieces of property. This was not through eminent domain. This was through just negotiation and a simple agreement from the current owners. So this plan also articulates where the transload facility would go, and it is southwest of St. John, about a mile from the intersection of 281 and 20th, 20th Avenue. It is 2 miles west.
Yeah, it'd be the northwest quarter of Section 8 and the southwest quarter of Section 5, south of the railroad track. So from St. John, or from the elevator, it's a ½ mile south and 1.5 west.
The intent of the Port Authority articulates what some of the powers are, that we have the authority to purchase, acquire, construct, reconstruct, improve, equip, on and on facilities. So in this case, the intent of the port is to own the land and the railroad infrastructure itself, but any infrastructure that's related to a specific business. So say grain loadout facilities, grain bins, fertilizer tanks, those would be owned by the company that is the tenant of the port. They would not only have the responsibility of the expense of building it and owning it, maintaining it, but they would pay property taxes on it. And separately, well, just in the interest of being transparent and everything, this is kind of a separate action that the county and the city of St. John are taking on, but we are establishing it as a tax increment finance district so that the property taxes that are collected on those real estate improvements can be rebated to the port to pay for any kind of infrastructure costs that we aren't able to offset with grant funding. So it's our intent to operate the Port Authority as a kind of a pay-as-you-go. You know, some ports may assess taxes related to it. Our intent is not to do that, to utilize public grant funding for infrastructure, and that which is not, you know, the expense that's not paid by that can be hopefully offset with whatever property taxes are being collected new to this property because of the port being there, you know, so the new property taxes that come from the improvements related to the port. If I said that clearly enough, but the port would also collect rent and fees from the tenants that would be a part of the operations of that. So our intent, I think, as an organization is to make this cost neutral to the public in a public taxing sense, but generate some new benefit in terms of economic activity, job creation, and the ripple effect that comes from that. You know, the public plan, I mean, this is kind of, it's kind of a, you know, a requirement by the state law that allows ports to occur. You know, we have to, you know, establish a plan covering some of the topics, and it's, you know, it's a methods of financing. We are authorized to borrow money from the credit and income and revenues to be derived from the operation of the facilities. We're permitted to borrow money from either financial institutions or the state of Kansas. So we could bond, we can borrow, like it from a bank. But they're not general obligations of the county, of Stafford County. That's, I don't know, are there any questions or comments from the public?
I just don't that up for comment, but they would need to put their name and comment.
Okay. If you'd like to comment, we'd ask that we have your name so that we can record that as a part of the proceeds of the hearing.
Who's the board? Rick Steinmetz. Who's the board?
For the Port Authority,
Yes, sir.
it's the 3 commissioners and Carolyn, and then the 3 appointees.
Who are they?
Chad,
Todd.
Like Todd.
I'm Bryce Garner, Chad Fisher, Justin Bosberg, Julie Lyon, Clay Grimmett, and then Carolyn Dunn.
Thank you.
Yep.
We tried to get representation from across the county. Julie Lyons is the mayor of Stafford. Justin Bosberg's from Maxville, and everybody knows Chad.
My name's Andrew Fullerton. What are the duration of the leases, or the lease duration for tenants, or how will that be negotiated?
It is not determined right now. It is subject to negotiation, and
that would be like a transparent process out in the open, or how would that be handled?
That's a good question. I foresee it being, at least initially, on a company by company basis. You know, our board toured the Port of Catoosa recently, and I think learned a lot about how a more established port goes about doing things. The leases are public record. This is a public organization, so the leases are a matter of public record. If you want to, they've been willing to share leases with us as an example, saying that we can either go through the hard process of filing a notice of, is it FOIA, when you go through the process of requiring that they disclose certain information, or they'll just share it with us, and they've been willing to do that. And we would be subject to the same requirements. Any lease that we have is going to be something that could be, requested by the public. To be more direct in how we negotiate them up front is a public process. At least my inclination is that that may not be the case. We gotta make this work for our initial tenants. We're gonna have to talk through it, what makes sense, so that we can get it going.
Okay.
I should just say, property acquisition is covered by executive authority. That would be the only time that anything wouldn't be subject to the public, but then there would be the process to actually acquire it would be. Negotiations would be.
Catoosa, as an example, has available lots,
Yeah.
basically, for lease. In addition to the current tenants they have, and I think that there is some consistency about what terms, for example, I think it's like $5,500 an acre, is their base lease for the amount of land that one leases before they put the improvements on it. We haven't gotten far enough to establish that kind of overall term.
Terms timing. I was just wondering, how long is Catoosa's leases? Do you know that? The time frame there for them?
I think they had some 25 and some 50-year leases, and then at the end of the leases, the people have the option, to continue the lease.
Are you guys leaning toward time frames like that?
Like Carolyn said, we're willing to work with the first several, to get the deal done and get it built.
And also, I think it's advantageous to both the owner of any potential facility and the port to have a longer term relationship because of the TIF district. That's our main financing tool, so it's in our best interest as the port to have the facilities there and operating for at least 20 years. The TIF is for 20 years, so just as a pass-through to help pay for the facility, we would want long-term relationships with potential businesses on the rail.
Yeah, I think it might be worth noting too that while we anticipate the cost of infrastructure to be from, depending on options, 7 to 10 million on the ports side of things, that investment on the customer side of things is probably going to be double or triple that. And so I think we need to give them terms enough to be able to, realize that investment, make their return on that investment.
Be flexible in the future.
I mean, they're not going to get profit back in 5 years on that kind of investment. They're going to need a longer horizon too.
Yeah.
So.
I have one other question, kind of a follow-up. Would there be potential preferential treatment for companies that are going to handle different products that aren't already being handled here, i.e. a grain company that would compete against existing grain companies that have already made their full investment without any public money? Would there be a differentiation for a company of that nature versus someone that's going to handle, aggregate or some other product that is not being handled in the area currently?
That's an issue. We are actually talking to some other companies, and the whole port, I think, will operate best if we have multiple sources of revenue coming into it, multiple tenants and so forth. And aggregate is one that we are exploring. So to answer your question directly about preferential terms, again, I don't know that we have established policies of all of that yet. I think we could easily get into a debate on how to define what business exists. I mean, like aggregate, I mean, we do have gravel on roads here already. It came from somewhere, you know, so I would like for that to originate here going forward, but, and it may not be in Stafford County, but that is, you know, currently being distributed, but it's coming from somewhere. So my goal, I think, is to try to get, you know, just create as much business activity as we can here. I think containers might be one of those things that is in a future second stage. It'll be a harder nut to crack, but that might be one example of where it potentially could be a service that isn't competing with, directly at least, other businesses. There's nobody else loading out containers here. It's going to Kansas City, you know, for the most part, but again, it's being transported somewhere. Somebody's going to see competition in it.
Back to your first question that you'd asked about the transparency of the contracts. We might have a little, I'm not quite sure. On the contracts, I think it'll be public information as far as how long the contracts are, who the company is, but as far as the dollar value that the companies are paying, or, you know, their tonnage fee or their rail fee, I don't know whether that will just come into the main line item, because I think they had talked to Catoosa to where there was some tradecraft, you know, to where each business doesn't know what the other business is paying, but then it will come in for public information to where if you have 3 businesses, it'll go all into one line item of the income of the port, you know, authority, to where the county taxpayers will be able to see the income. They just won't be able to say, well, this guy's paying this and this is paying that. That's at least my interpretation of it. And for like, you know, if we put in a grain facility and they're running competition with their elevators, you can see that, you know, it would be running competition with their local elevators, but then on the other hand, it gives our local elevators a closer place to get the grain hauled out to. So it's a good, I think it would have more good than bad for our local elevators.
I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
If you aggregate, you're talking about bringing rock and different things in, will that affect some of these local truckers that haul it? I mean, will we be like cutting their throats, local people?
My interpretation is that it may change the flow of things, but it's still not
You're
going to,
still
you're still
gonna-
going to have to truck it to
You're
its
still gonna need
final
them.
destination.
Okay.
I think maybe some would get cut out on the delivery side, you know, because currently they're going somewhere to get it. But I think if we have large volumes of aggregate coming here, there's going to be more of a need from transportation from here to wherever it's being used. So yeah, to answer your question, it will probably affect their current business model, but that's not to say that it couldn't lead into something else just as good or better.
Sign-in sheet make its way around? Okay, I'm just checking that it did, super.
We make a motion for it.
With that, if there is no further public comment, the plan is before you, along with a map illustrating the general layout of the track being proposed. Is there a motion for approval of the plan?
I make a motion that we approve the plan.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the plan for future development, construction, improvement, and utilization of the Port Authority of Stafford County. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Same sign, motion carries 7-0. Okay. That is the sole purpose of today's gathering, so if there's no other,
I guess we could, our Port Authority meetings are open to the public, and they're
Yes.
also posted online. For future, you know, this is a fluid process that we're working through week to week on Port Authority meetings, so if you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out to us as business owners and potential suitors, and our meetings are open to the public if somebody wanted to stop by and.
absolutely. We do give public notice. We don't always do it in a published newspaper, especially given the weekly nature of them. And frankly, I don't know if everybody looks at newspapers as opposed to other news sources right now. So we have both a Facebook site specifically for the, or no, we have a website specifically for the port. We have, we usually put in our Facebook page for Stafford County Economic Development. There's other sources of publication that you would suggest. I'm open to where the best places are to get the word out to the public, but we do give notice of a public hearing or public meeting for the port in advance of doing them. You know, usually put something at the courthouse too, as far as like bulletin boards go. Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. I guess we have to vote on it. All in favor? Okay.
Corn yet?